Good morning, third grade online learners. Today is Tuesday, October 6th. Welcome to third grade science. We are learning about invertebrates. And I know when I get to this lesson, I always think, well, I'd rather learn about vertebrates because that's mostly what I see and what I deal with in life. But there's a lot to learn about invertebrates, and there's a lot more of them. So, don't be afraid to learn about invertebrates, and um, they do a lot of different things within our ecosystem. So there's a lot of things we can learn from them and maybe even use them for, like the sponge. If you get a really good sea sponge, maybe that's a lot better than an artificial one. So yesterday we learned about this page in the book, and I'll just review it with you today. Types of invertebrates. Most of the animals on Earth are invertebrates. An invertebrate is an animal that does not have a backbone. Some types of invertebrates live on land and some live in the water. Sponges. They are animals that move very little. Their bodies are full of holes. Sponges filter tiny bits of food from the water. Sea stars and sea urchins. Sea stars and sea urchins have spiny body coverings. Neither animal has a head, but they both have a mouth. They move and capture food using tiny suction cups called tube feet. So, sea star, some people I guess call it a starfish. That's what I'm used to calling it. So not much on that page, but mentions a lot of neat animals. And I did find today's website that we're supposed to summarize, and there was a lot of neat pictures of invertebrates on this page. So I'm going to read that to you, and remember, this is the page we will do our summary from. Invertebrates, one of two major animal groupings. There are two basic groups of higher animals. There are vertebrates and invertebrates. While both have advanced through the process of evolution, there is one fundamental difference. Invertebrates do not have backbones. Both groups are in the kingdom animal. They should say animal kingdom, but they're being scientific and say Animalia. But their bodies are organized differently. What makes invertebrates different? All invertebrates share common traits. At the bottom of the invertebrate world are the sponges. Sometimes they don't fit in, but they are still part of the group. And they say, here's a nice little neat list, and they show different pictures. They are multicellular. It's more than being a colony of individual cells. The cells are working together for survival of the organism. All of the cells have specific duties and responsibilities. No backbone. We already talked about this. That's the whole definition of invertebrate. No vertebrate, no skeleton. No cell walls. When we talk about plants, we always mention cell walls. Invertebrates don't have them. Remember that even if none of them look like animals, they are. Being an animal means you have no cell wall. Here are a few of the qualifier most attached. That means not all of them have the trait, but most do. Most of them have tissue, not sponges. They are specific organizations of cells. Most of them reproduce. That means two gametes combine to form a new organism. Those gametes come from separate organisms, male and female. Most invertebrates can move. Even sponges can move when they are very young and very small. Once they settle down, they don't move anymore. Other invertebrates, like lobsters and insects, move around their whole lives. Most invertebrates are organized in a way called symmetrical. Symmetrical organization means when you can draw a line down the middle of the organism and the two sides look like mirror images. Draw a line down the middle of yourself and one side looks like the other. If you draw a line down the middle of an octopus, you would find the two sides with equal parts. Remember, We said most. Sponges and some coral are not symmetrical. So if you draw a line down the middle of them, the other side's not going to be the same. Invertebrates can't make their own food. Scientists use the word heterotrophic. Heterotrophs feed off other things to get their energy. They are autotrophic. They make their own food. Because heterotrophic is one of the main characteristics of being an animal. We eat things, whether as plants or animals. That's just the way the world works. Okay, so that's a nice little summary of what it is to be an invertebrate. And remember, we learned that 99 out of 100 creatures on Earth are invertebrates. They do not have backbones. Yet when we think of most animals, maybe we see on a farm, every one of them has a backbone. So every one of them that you see, there's 99 invertebrates out there. So the world is much more plentiful with animals that do not have backbones. Don't forget about the study guide. It's never too early to start looking over that. And there's a lot of terminology on today's or this week's study guide, which is already on Google Classroom. Of course, we have the word invertebrate. And then we have arthropod. That's an invertebrate that has jointed legs, a body with 2 or more sections, and a hard outer covering. Sponges, we just mentioned, are animals that move very little. Their bodies are full of holes and filter food from the water. Sea stars and urchins have spiny body coverings, have no heads but have a mouth, and have a tiny suction cup called tube feet. Earthworms have soft tube-shaped bodies with no legs, eyes, or shells. They live in the water, soil, or inside other animals. Corals and jellies are underwater animals with soft bodies and sometimes a hard outer skeleton. They have mouths and tentacles that grab food that floats by. Snails and squids, octopuses, clams, oysters, scallops are all part of the family. All of these animals have a shell except for the octopus. Butterflies and ants is the largest group of arthropods that have 6 legs and 3 body sections. They may or may not have wings. I think they mean the ants there. Centipedes and millipedes, they have segmented bodies with 1 pair of legs on each segment. Millipedes have 2 pair of legs on each segment. Spiders have 8 jointed legs, 2 body sections, jaws, and fangs. Crabs and lobsters, crayfish, many animals in this group have an exoskeleton, so their skeleton is on the outside, and it's a very hard-like shell. Mollusks, a group that includes snails, squids, octopuses, clams, oysters, and scallops. So there you go, 3rd grade. Let me just count these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's over, if you counted everything on that page, probably close to 20 invertebrates that you might not have thought about as being invertebrates right away, but that's what they are. No backbone, no skeleton. 99 out of 100 on Earth creatures are invertebrates. I hope you enjoy the website, and please try to give me a good summary. Give me a couple sentences on what you thought jumped out at you the most, what entertained you the most. I want to mention there's a museum in Washington, D.C. that they have an entire floor dedicated to invertebrates, and there's just, you go in there and there's insects on display everywhere. You can, if you really like that, you could spend the day in there learning about insects. So a lot of neat museums, but that was a pretty neat one if you're into science. Okay, 3rd grade, we will see you tomorrow.